Good morning. Good morning. This is David Theus with the Small Business Patriot for another episode of Saturday Morning Coaching Call. And I'm on the line with Julie Payton this morning. We've got just Julie and I hanging out together today. I'm a little bit, I hope I don't sound too nasally. I got a little bit of an under the weather. And if you're listening to us here in Clay County, I think I saw an arc being built down the road. We're getting a tremendous amount of rain this weekend, and as my wife has told me, we need it. So that's always seems to be the catchphrase, doesn't it? It says, "Well, it's this rain's horrible, but we sure could use it." So I know we've had some forest fires out in the west part of the Panhandle, and God bless those folks. We want to make sure that they get plenty of rain and stop those fires for damages. But anyway, you didn't sign on today for a weather report. Again, this is the Saturday morning coaching call where folks like Julie and I get together at 9 o'clock in real time on Saturday morning to express some concerns to myself as a coach, business coach. And typically, if we have a couple more people, there's a peer advisement opportunity where other people in the room may weigh in for solutions. But Julie stuck with me and we'll get through it. And I think she's got a couple good questions to start off with. But Julie, if you'll take a moment, introduce yourself and your company and what you do, and then we'll get started.
Good morning. I'm Julie Payton with First Florida Financial. I do residential mortgages throughout the whole state of Florida.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. All right, you in the pre-show, we drew numbers and you get to go first. So
I'm the winner.
Winner, chicken dinner. What was your question that you wanted to bring up, and let's have a discussion.
And I think it's a question that a lot of people have is you're always told, ask for the business. Anytime you have a client meeting, it's ask for the business. Don't ever go away without asking for the business. Sometimes I know a lot of other people struggle with how to ask for the business without looking like you're begging for it or you're desperate, trying to keep it professional and really just trying to let yourself out there where you're asking for the business because you know you do a good job, you know you're a professional, and you know you have something that someone needs or wants, and just trying to figure out how to ask for that. Like, at what point do you ask for that? Because going into a meeting, it isn't, oh, I asked you here today to ask for your business.
That's a great question. So let me kind of set the table a little bit so I make sure I understand where you're coming from. When you meet with folks, typically, I guess it could go one of two ways, but how does the appointment get set? Do you cold call solicit someone or someone ultimately calling you?
I personally will cold call, invite somebody to lunch, really to hear how their business is going. And it kind of keeps me in tune with the market because I really interact with a lot of real estate agents.
Okay, so this line of questioning isn't, I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question, or at least where we're headed. Is this I'm sitting in front of a potential mortgagee, mortgagee, or you're saying that you're sitting in someone who could refer you to business?
A referral source.
Okay. All right. That's a whole different game, but it's very similar. So, I mean, obviously, if you've got someone who's looking to secure a mortgage, they called you, or you at least have that part of the relationship settled, that you're both, there for the same reason. And that should be really easy to ask for the business because you've got a value proposition that makes sense. They're there for the same reason that you are. It seems obvious that they would want to move forward, right? And so you're going to say that's an easy ask. But what you're saying is you're meeting with another industry participant, maybe in a different field like real estate. And how do you transition the conversation from how's your lunch to how can we do some business together? Okay, so I met with a lady, I can't remember her name off the top of my head now, but a couple of years ago, and I had to do some fundraising for myself at one point. This is interesting. And I've been in business like you have for 30 plus years. And I have no problem asking for business when I sit in front of a potential customer referral, because I felt like my value proposition, as far as the company and the services I provided, were so valuable and so warranted that you'd be silly not to do business with me. So I had never had a problem asking for someone to either refer me or do business with me. But when it came down to asking for myself, I had to raise some money for a campaign, believe it or not. And I was very uncomfortable. I was like, well, it's one thing to ask for a business, but now I got to ask for myself. And she said something to me that really stuck. And she said, look, if you represent a value proposition, if you represent a service and your story is worthy to be heard, and in this situation for a campaign, fundraising, then people should be willing to write a check to help you further that message. Now, are we talking apples to apples quite just yet? Not necessarily, but you bring a basket of service proposition. You bring a basket of value of benefits and services to the table, whether you're talking to the end user customer, the person that's going to actually secure a mortgage through you and finance their home, or a real estate agent. And so in business, we're always trying to align ourselves with fellow professionals that when they refer you, they look like a hero. And so, you've told me, and I've seen you in work, I've seen you in action, the game changer. You don't use that lightly. It's true that you do things differently. You look out for your customers and you put them first and you facilitate that proposition in every step of your way. You're worth it. It's like, remember the guy on Saturday Night Live used to sit in the front of the mirror and say, who was that guy? Al Franken. That's a horrible example, but you're good and you're worth it. And by golly, you're a super person. Well, that's really what we're talking about.
Right.
It's not a joke. It's serious that you bring a whole basket of value propositions to the table that not only your customers, but their customers should know about it. And it's not being cocky. It is being confident. And only the confidence rings true only when you can not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. And you do, Julie, every day of the week. And so there's got to be a little bit of a swagger about it, but you don't have to come across braggadocious, but a sense of confidence and say, look, I am who I am. I service my clients and your clients like they're mine. And I understand all the moving parts of the mortgage industry from soup to nuts, from start to finish. And I'm going to take care of your clients just as if, because they will be mine ultimately, but just as if I found them. And so I want you, Mr. or Miss Real Estate Professional, to be a hero. And when you're a hero because of the things I've done, it bodes well for both of us. So it is a little bit of a sales presentation, if you will, but I don't like the word salesy. You know me well enough. I like to be able to say, look, I'm speaking from the heart. I'm going to take care of your people. And they're going to look to you and say, wow, thank you for recommending me to Julie, because Julie took care of us from the beginning to the end. And that bodes well for the real estate professional who ultimately referred them. So you've got to give them a sense of confidence that is exactly what you're going to do, because at the end of the day, it's about trust. Before I give someone else's name, there's this kind of a gut moment that says, ugh, I'm going to tell someone this guy's name. Is he going to screw me? I mean, because ultimately that's what's going to come back.
Right. It's your reputation.
Yeah. And you've got a track record of not screwing people, but taking care of them. So you should be confident. I know it's one more hurdle to always ask for one more piece, but hey, Mr. or Miss Real Estate Professional, who else would you rather have take care of your customer? Let's do business.
Right. I think it's having the confidence of knowing what you do, that it isn't a transaction to me. A lot of companies, it is a transaction. And even after the fact, I always use the same thing over and over and over. When I see you in Walmart, I want you to say hi, not, oh my gosh, there's that mortgage lady, So, and I truly believe that. And, sometimes I'll even have people say, oh, hi, I'm so-and-so. And I'm like, oh yeah, but I'm sure I've sent you birthday cards, and it's not a matter of just sending a birthday card. I truly remember that person for a reason. Like I picked out something about them that I liked or they were interested in, and I truly tried to build a relationship with that person on a friend level.
I'm a storyteller, and those stories about the Walmart thing, I was just thinking that, are real, and they're stories that people can, put their arms around it. They're tangible. But you and I, in my previous line of work as financial services, when you start talking, you gather data and you're fact finding when you sit with a client that's very personable. I mean, you talk about how much money do you make, how much cash you got in the bank, how much debt do you carry. I mean, these are personable things, and this is sensitive material sometimes. I'm sure you've gotten into a conversation with someone and they were a little uneasy revealing all the truth, but you've had to tell them, I got to know this stuff so we can best represent you to the lender and get the mortgage that you're ultimately after. And so your business, like my business from the financial services standpoint, is very personable and it's intimate. And so you're not just a transaction person. You're not just the facts. There was a fellow I used to work with before. What was that cop show? Oh gosh, I'm having a senior moment. But where the police officer, the detective would have his little notepad out, and he would say, "Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts." That's not what we're doing. We're not just gathering,
Right,
female, date of birth, that sort of thing. This is a very personable
right,
relationship, and so those are the things that you need to be able to convey to your prospective referee, I guess, that's how serious you take it. And it's important to you because every customer is a relationship. So yeah, it is a confidence piece that needs to come with it, but damn it, you're worth it. I mean, you're good at what you do and you take care of your people. I referred you to someone and the guy can't stop singing your praises. So and he apparently had a little bit of a bump in the road that he had to overcome, and you helped him do that, and he was able to secure the refinancing he needed, and he's happy as a lark. So
right. And I think that too, some people dwell on that bump in the road, and you can't, because no loan is the same, no person is the same. Everybody's situation is different. And it's funny how when talking with people, it's easy to refer even other people, because I'll talk to somebody, at a restaurant or wherever, and instead of talking about mortgage, they might say something like, "Yeah, I just, left my job. I've been there 20 years." I'm like, "Oh, you need to move your money. You need a financial advisor," and it just pops somebody that does good work. It's so easy to refer or point out that person, but when it comes personal, it's a little bit more difficult because you feel like, oh gosh, I can't say anything. I don't want to be bragging, or, you got to do this.
no, with that actually speaks volumes because you possess this thing called humility, and humility in today's world is a hard thing to come by. There's a lot of showmen out there who, for lack of a better
Right,
term, are showmen. And part of, I think, of a real person, a complete person, is someone who's humble.
right,
And we need that. That's that whole conversation that I always keep having about that emotional transfer of empathy when you're listening to someone and in that conversation where they look across the table and say, wow, Julie gets it. She understands. I don't know how it happens. I'd love to ask God one day how that thing happens, but the empathy transfers. And then once that happens, the trust begins. That's where the relationship begins to prosper business. Ultimately, I mean, the old joke about the used car finance guy or the used car guy is you never get a chance to really develop that empathy with that guy because he's so superficial about moving the car. Not to pick on our automobile salespeople because they get a bad rap sometime, but you never get to that empathetic transition. So the trust never. Sometimes it does. So I've bought cars from people. I'm getting myself in trouble,
well,
but
it's true that one bad apple really does upset the
it does.
cart for a long time.
Yeah, and that's an Indian industry.
Yeah,
But I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. But the bottom line is empathy. Part of the characteristic of having empathy for someone is being able to be humble. And Humility it's a God-given learned trait, I guess. I mean, you've got to go through some stuff yourself to understand
Right.
humility because
And
you
I
know,
was always taught if you truly love what you do, it's going to show. And if if you're in it just to make money, but you hate going to work every day, you really need to find something else to do.
well, let me ask you something. Is what you do processing mortgage originating, is that what you truly love, or is it the process of helping someone attain their aspirations and goals?
The end result. I work for the end result too. I mean, obviously it is a good living, but to see somebody, especially somebody that comes to me and says, "Gosh, I never thought I could buy a house," and then realize they can because their thinking was so way off and that they really can. It's just, seeing them at closing day and they're so happy. And, sometimes they say things and I'm like, oh my gosh, well, that wasn't the intention, but I'm so glad you saw that. And
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anytime, any business, we get a chance to do this, even, um, I've got to be careful in my learned movement, not to be crass, but I mean, any business, even the guy that takes care of your septic tank, if you can help resolve that person's problem, yeah,
they're grateful.
yeah, that's nasty business that you're down there doing. But at the end of the day, my home isn't destroyed by the mess that could be made, and you've solved my anxiety. You've got my stress levels down. That's huge. So yeah, I think that's what we're all doing in our service business, and even those who provide products that are helpful to our customers. We're really problem solvers for people. I think today's, I don't know if it's the mad lifestyle that we live because of the pace of the things we're at, but so many of us are so fast to try to get things done, accomplished, and just get it off our desk when we've stopped. The internet's part of this problem where we've stopped to realize that, well, these are people we're dealing with, and
Right.
these are fellow humans that we've got to spend some time and be humble and be empathetic to their problems so we can ultimately solve those and then earn probably lifelong customers.
Right.
Great question. That's a tough one. You know, the referral side of the business, I'll be honest, I'm no expert at this. It asking for the referral was the most difficult thing for me to learn in financial services. When I was sat across from a person and I would do a plan for them, and it encompassed everything from life insurance to long-term care, all the protective side of things, and then the investment side of things. And so we're asking for maybe two, three, four transactions to close all in one, not one setting, but I mean, over a plan cycle. I've asked that customer to do business with me two, three, four, maybe five times. And then I got to ask for a referral. Oh man. I'm
Yeah.
like, can I just bug you one more minute? Now, can you do something for me after all that stuff? And so what I learned, instead of it being one more sale, because that's the way I really saw it, was now I've got to ask for one more sale. I've got to ask for a referral. I changed the language slightly and I said, listen, we've just been through one heck of a relationship. I mean, this process we just came through from start to finish, Mr. Client, it was pretty arduous. It was involved. It was intense. If you know of someone that could benefit from this exact process that you and I have been through, and you've benefited, is that correct? Oh yeah, Mr. Theus, I couldn't imagine we could have taken care of this any other way. You've done a great job. Then all I'm asking for you, if you know of someone that could help, I could help the same way, would you keep me in mind? Now that's a soft pedal, and it's not as hard as some of the referral experts would say, well, you got to ask for two to three names, and you got to build a spider
Right.
diagram, and you got to, do all this other
And
stuff.
you have them calling all your friends and family.
Yeah. I never, that was the hurdle. That was the thing I couldn't get
Right.
over. So when I finally realized, listen, we've just been through the mud and we've come out on the other side and we're all shiny and clean. If there's anyone else that ever comes to mind that maybe you go to church with, or you do some social stuff with, it, I could help on the same level, I surely would appreciate the opportunity to serve them. And man, the doors started opening up when I started to package it that way. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Okay, I like your background. Success. We don't use chalkboards anymore. I know that's.
I noticed that, and I was like, wow, the last time I saw a chalkboard.
I have some. I have good memories of chalkboards and bad. I'll share this with you since we've got a little bit of levity here. So the good memory is I was one of those students that took Latin in high school. Did you ever take Latin in high school?
Oh, no.
So my mother, I'm not a doctor, obviously, or an attorney, but my mother felt like you got to have Latin. And I'm thankful now that I took it, but 4 years of Latin. But the only way I passed Latin is because after school, Miss Egoff, Carol Egoff, she's now deceased, would allow me to clean her blackboards and her erasers. That's the only way I passed Latin. I was a football player in high school. And I said, Carol, I called her by Carol. She was a hoot. I said, I'm never going to pass this class, but please help me do that. So she goes, well, clean the blackboards and the erasers. The downside was my father was an electrical engineer, and I was trying to learn algebra, and he designed a blackboard. It was actually a green board in the garage. This is how my dad was. And we would be in the garage at night with the chalk and the chalkboard doing algebra and putting me in tears. I mean, to the point where I was like, Dad, I can't get it. I just can't get it. And he would be hollering at me, and nothing malicious. It's just he'd be frustrated because he couldn't teach me.
Because he knew it, you couldn't get it.
Yeah, and he knew the struggle he went through to get it. It took him a long time as well. But in hindsight, I could tell he wasn't mad at me. He was just frustrated. But those members of chalkboard are like, take me to a safe place. But I got through it. So anyway, and it was successful. So that's pretty cool. That's a crazy sidebar. Oh, in case you don't know, I'm on my third cup of coffee, and this is what it does. This is what it does to me. Yeah. Well, it's having great effect.
Okay. Saturday morning. What can we say?
Well, it's Saturday morning, and it's in my corner of my screen. It says it's 69 degrees with rain. And apparently we've got
rain.
Yeah, we're gonna have a flood warning before it's over. I mean, it's raining. All right. Anything else you want to conjure up or think about?
No, I'm good. I think it was just sometimes you just have to hear things to remind you why you're in it, why you do it. And, you're not begging for the business. You have something to offer, and hopefully they see that.
I had a guy in my office. When you work around, I was fortunate enough to work in an office, even though I was self-employed. I had a place to go to work. And there were I have to say, the financial services, investing, and insurance, if you're in that field and you're not a salaried employee where you're an independent contractor like I was surrounded by 5 or 6 individuals who are fellow independent contractors, and probably the hardest working individuals I've ever been around, meaning that they rang out every minute of the hour. We were very efficient people. There was there was chatter amongst us, but we were there for work. We were there for business and to help customers and to earn a living, quite frankly. And so time and time again, after I first started working there and started to realize the atmosphere I was in, these were very diligent, hardworking people. And I learned a lot of stuff from these guys. And one of the guys, he took the industry very seriously, and he was so confident about, for example, life insurance. If you hear of a conversation where someone doesn't have life insurance, or they're not protected properly, he felt it was his moral duty to make sure that they understood every ramification, and that they understood not only the downside, but the value that he could bring to the table to save them. I mean, he looked at it that way. I garnered stuff from him. I didn't quite package it the same way, but he had such a conviction about his value, what he brought to the table, that it just oozed from him. You couldn't help but want to do business with him. And it was positive. It wasn't about him enriching himself. It was about, look, you've got to listen to me. You need to hear this, and you have to participate. And however you structure your confidence level, it's yours. You get to do that. But I think You bring that value to your customers. If they're seeking, if it's a referral possibility and they're seeking a home in today's arena of financing and all the things that are changing almost daily, they need to speak to Julie Payton to make sure that they get the best opportunity available. So that's the confidence you got to bring with the table, with humility.
Right. Everybody should want what's best for their customer.
Yeah. And ultimately the person who refers you is going to be a hero. So I think that's important.
Right.
Very good. Well, I think we could wrap up right there without, I don't want to get into kicking a dead horse. I'm getting better at that. All right. So listen, if you're listening to us on Spotify or other iHeartRadio and other platforms that you might listen to a podcast, please like us and join us with a subscription and share. And if you're watching us here on YouTube, I feel kind of goofy saying this. I watch all my YouTube channels, but hit the like button. Please share us and subscribe as well. And we look forward to another opportunity on a Saturday morning coaching call to come to you again and answer some questions. So thank you very much, Julie Payton, for hanging out with me this morning on this rainy Saturday morning. And until next time, we'll have a great weekend and have a great week.
Thanks. You too.
All right, dear. We'll see you soon.